Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Sunday, May 21st, 2023, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Now Mind You podcast. This is episode 68, Combat. I'm TJ.
I'm Matt.
Bryce had a scheduling conflict, so he will not be able to attend this week's Combat episode, but we should all be back next week, y'all. With that, though, what will we be covering today, right? We have on the boxing tip, we have the main event of Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko, and then we'll switch over to the UFC, where we had the fight night that took place at the Vegas Apex Arena with Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill. Without further ado, I'm gonna let Matt take over and take us into the boxing, where I'll chip in because I did catch a bit of this main event. But go ahead, Matt.
So on the boxing tip, we had Devin Haney going against Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko was almost the undisputed champion. He held every title except one. And in the fight for undisputed, he lost to Teofimo Lopez through essentially through just the ebb and flow of the world and through combat sports.
Right.
Lomachenko has now found himself in a position to now win the undisputed titles that have already been collected, but they are now possessed by Devin Haney.
Mm-hmm.
Devin Haney, 24 years old, undefeated young upstart, pretty much is more than anything else been fighting to get his respect. Had a lot of fights in Mexico that people question the validity of, and then he has caught criticism after criticism as to why he's beaten all of his different opponents. Vasily Lomachenko on paper and pretty much in every aspect was the largest task that was going to be placed before him. So it was essentially a 24-year-old looking to prove himself against the 34-year-old that was looking to show that he still had it.
Mm-hmm.
And both guys proved themselves, I believe. I think everybody proved their point last night. This fight was extremely close. I'm going to start off by giving just out the gate, the winner of the fight was Devin Haney. I'm going to be honest and give my opinion that I do, in fact, believe Devin Haney was the winner of the fight. What I did not agree with was the judging of the fight. Even though the judging favored Devin Haney, there was a scorecard that was 116 to 112 that neither fighter, I feel, deserved that score. Other two, he won by about a point or so, if I'm not mistaken. I felt like, as far as Devin Haney and Lomachenko were concerned, that you could really tell that they had very specifically had camps tailor-made for each other. There were little things that they both did, specifically stepping out to the side, Devin stepping out to his left, throwing a hook, and Lomachenko stepping out to his right, throwing a jab, but throwing it almost on an angle where he can catapult it. A lot of footwork, a lot of body work, and I really felt like the body work was the difference maker for Devin Haney, especially going down the stretch, because again, this is a 12-round fight. 12 rounds is a very long time to be in a fight. And I thought both guys showed that they had the ability to do so. And somewhat amazingly, it was like Lomachenko didn't catch his second win, but his third or fourth win on like the back end of this fight, and just was stepping on the gas on the whole back end of the fight. I thought that for the most part, in a lot of these rounds, they were trading rounds off. One guy won this round, and I felt like some of these rounds could have been a bit preference rounds. There were a handful of rounds that were clear for Lomachenko, a handful of rounds that were clear for Devin Haney, but I felt like the fight just was super, super close. I felt like the right person won in Devin Haney, but I can hear the argument of Lomachenko winning. Like I said, the only thing I really didn't agree with was that the scorecards and the fact that anybody could give Devin Haney round 10 when he was like,
he was
virtually out on his feet.
Yeah.
But shout out to him for being tough. You know what I'm saying? And being able to
Right.
push through that and come back and finish that fight, because that's crazy. Overall, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I thought it was a great fight. I thought it was an extremely tactical fight, but it was tactical without the sacrifice of it being entertaining. It didn't sacrifice entertainment value. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. We saw Shakur Stevenson jump in the ring right at the conclusion of the fight. Obviously, the next fight to make is Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson. So we'll see if that ends up happening or how that can end up going down. But I'll kind of leave it at that. TJ, what were your thoughts?
I mean, I feel like you hit the nail on the head. And to be fair, too, like I missed the first 4 to 5 rounds of the bout. But yeah, the judging just seemed a little extreme. There was that one super wide margin on that one card that didn't make any sense. And then there was one thing too where in round 11 where I thought, okay, Lomachenko might be showing his age a little bit. He was pressing on the gas in round 11. At some point, he kind of stopped pressing it a little bit. I don't know if you saw that as well, Matt, but like he was like giving it to him, then he kind of stopped. And I was like, oh, that could have just been because his gas tank was starting to kind of, run a little bit on empty. I mean, he is older, right? He's 34 years old, fighting against a 24-year-old is what it is. But man, round 10 and 11, crazy showing for Lomachenko.
34 years old, two-time Olympian with like 400 plus amateur fights.
Right.
So he ain't really 34. Really like 74 in fighting
in
age.
fighter years. In fighter years, right? But yeah, like a very impressive showing for Lomachenko. Probably, not probably, definitely a disappointing outcome for him, but I don't think his stock goes down. Yeah, and then shout out Devin Haney, man. But everything, especially from the face-off at the weigh-ins to now, is like, oh, he's trying to go heel. That usually doesn't play well, statistically speaking. The one who goes crazy during the face-off is usually the one who's like setting themselves up for an L, but that wasn't the case here. Very entertaining fight for sure. Yeah, that was all my thoughts on it. I feel like you covered everything else really well.
Well, we also had UFC going on last night. We had
Did we now?
UFC, yeah, we did. Yeah, UFC Vegas 73 fight night. Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill. Also on that card, we had at the Apex. We also had Edmund Shabazian versus Anthony Hernandez, Emily Ducote versus Lupita Godinez. We had Andre Fialio again, and and Joaquin Buckley, and we had Diego Ferreira and Michael Johnson. And for those of you who don't know, I'm not saying it in a derogatory way that we got him again. It's just Andre Fialio is a busy ass fighter.
We've covered his whole career in the
again.
UFC. Yeah, we've covered his whole career in the UFC, dog.
Damn, bro, get a hobby.
Right? Like, dude. Okay, so to add to what Matt just said, when they like showed Fialio on screen, they're like, he was the most active fighter last year, Matt.
He's like, yeah, no
he
shit.
He had the most fights in the UFC, bro.
Yeah. That motherfucker was fighting like he had bookies on his ass, boy.
Right.
That motherfucker was
fighting
all
legs.
the time.
like, chill. All right.
TJ, you wanna open it up?
Yeah,
man.
Get
into this Diego.
Listen, let me tell you something real quick. Is it me or was like 3 out of 5 fights were finishes? Right. This was another like this fight night.
Nobody was playing last night, man.
This fight night and last night, we had some back to back. Like, hey, it ain't personal. I just got to get you out of here, dog.
Hey, if you do your Googles, look at that preliminaries. About half the preliminaries was TKOs too.
I heard they were cooking on the.
Everybody was going to sleep. They was giving out NyQuil last night.
Yeah, we got Michael Johnson versus Diego Ferreira at lightweight. Both fighters similar in age, right? I wouldn't say like similar records, but like Johnson is like the veteran. You look at who he's fought, but he's fought like Khabib. He's fought everybody, right? And then Diego Ferreira, I think he was coming off of a long absence. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this was a meetup at lightweight. Round 1, if I had to score round 1, I'd say I'd score toward Michael Johnson because Johnson was looking good. Hands were good, kicks were good, takedown defense was good, and he was like giving it to Diego Ferreira. If anything, it looked like
real quick, just
go ahead.
to hop in on that. You are correct. This was his first fight since December of 2021. Fajeda, I'm referring to.
Yeah. Thank
I
you,
just want
man.
to follow it up and give you that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Like round one, definitely you'd have to give it to Johnson because Johnson was dominating on the feet, all aspects of the game. Then round two happened. The thing about Fajeda is like he's actually more of a grappler by nature. If you look at most of his finishes, they've come via the way of submission. So that's what a lot of people are expecting coming this way. But then he did something. I think he set it up with an initial high kick, kind of got, or it was a kick to the body, kind of got Johnson's hands to drop a little bit, and then throws a left, throws a right overhand. Now, here's the thing. If you listen to this without audio, it looks like the overhand like kind of barely glanced Michael Johnson in round two. But then you hear like the look like, oh, it actually hit him, right? Like I think was it Brendan Fitzgerald? Yeah, Brendan Fitzgerald was saying like it hit the hippocampus. I was like, damn, that's a next level precision. But
like, yeah, I didn't need to know it that detail, bro.
Right? Like, but dude, Johnson was out before he hit the canvas. That's how devastating of a knockout this was. Like
devastating, heartbreaking, painful.
Yeah, it was hard to see, and you could tell it kind of hit Diego a little weird too, because he ran over to Johnson. It didn't look like he was trying to finish the job. It looked like he was legitimately concerned for his opponent, right? Because homie had tears in his eyes, but there's a lot of emotions that go into fighting, right? Especially if you're coming off of a layaway and you're just like, do I still got it in me? Or if you're like not that dude who's like out here trying to give people concussions, but you know, it happens. But that being said, super strong showing for Fajeda. For Michael Johnson, man, it's like he's been at it a long time. You can't just keep getting hit like this, bro. But I'm gonna pass it over to Matt, man. What you think?
Hang the gloves up, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm saying this as a motherfucker that for real has been a fan of Michael Johnson for like some time. Hang them gloves up, dog. It's time. Like it's time. Like he's been stopped a lot of times in his career. And initially it was submission stuff. And submissions are fine, especially because he wasn't getting like put out cold, at least in most of those scenarios, right?
Right.
But now we're getting into a territory of like double-digit losses.
Yeah.
And the KOs are starting to pick up.
Yeah.
Like the Justin Gaethje TKO, that was a tough one, but you tough through that. But then the Josh Emmett one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now you
These are all hard hitters too.
Yeah, now you got Fajeda, and you basically went out the same way you went out when you fought Josh Emmett. You know, it's just starting to get scary to watch. Like I kind of like I get nervous.
You hit the nail on the head right there. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's scary to watch.
I don't want to see his, I don't want to see him in. You know what I mean? Look, he's a dog. No, but I'm not taking any credit away from Michael Johnson at all. But I think it's time to just cool out, man. Yeah. That's really my only thoughts on it. It just I didn't like what I saw, and I was like, man, I think that's it, man.
Yeah.
And again, I respect Michael Johnson a lot. I really, really do. I really, really do. But man, I don't like respectfully. I just kind of don't want to keep seeing him fight.
Yeah.
With that note, whether you want to see somebody fight or not, Andre Fialho versus Joaquin Buckley, because he got something to do, man.
Yeah.
Andre Fialho, this man fought like 5 times last year. He fought January, April, May, June, and November.
Covered his whole career.
But bro, what's up with you, dog? Bro got in the UFC and said the fights aren't gonna fight themselves. And he been live by the gun, die by the gun ever since. He came in and he's this time he was matched up with Joaquin Buckley, who was newly coming down to the weight class.
Correct.
Well, not necessarily newly, but coming back to the weight class for the first time. And this is definitely his it was his UFC debut at 170. First of all, I want to say he looked amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like physically, it's like he was a little less bulky, obviously, than you would expect. 15 pounds is a lot. He looked
Right.
great at 170.
Yeah.
I was like, man, maybe 170 is the weight class that this dude should be at. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, Again, that was just my opinion of it in that instance. So very early on, Joaquin Buckley is throwing this 1-2 head kick. And I mean, he's throwing it a lot in the first round. And I mean, he and Andre Fialio, if you know anything about either of these guys, neither guy's shy.
Yeah.
Nobody's shy. Neither guy is afraid to get in there, mix it up, and get in there and fight you and just look, whatever happens, happens. I'm gonna go out or you gonna go out. But this how this Gary go down. And man, the 1-2 head kick, he just kept throwing it. And sure enough, after buzzing Andre Fialio with a hard right hand, he goes kind of stumbling back. 1-2. What does he throw, TJ? The
Head
head kick.
kick.
Puts Andre Fialio down. Now, I'm not privy to if there was any beef or anything ahead of the time prior to this fight, but he definitely stood right over him after the referee waved it off and punched him one more time in the face.
It's not off brand for Buckley.
Well, with that,
he's gotten in trouble before. Hey, remember what was our boy Razak? Razak had that whole rant like where we were like off air,
like, yo, why is he so mad?
This nigga that mad the African way. Like, what did he do?
Yeah, bro, he was so mad. Like he was so furious,
mad, bro. Like, what did he do? And I was like, okay, so Buckley might be on one. But nah, Andre Fialio, man, the dude is always down to scrap, like always. There are fighters like Mike Davis who just can't seem to get fights booked, and then there's Andre Fialio. It's like, bro, at least whatever hookup you have, share the wealth with some of the other fighters, man, because some of these guys need it. Like Fialio came out of like nowhere, low key, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm in this. Fight nights, pay-per-views, doesn't matter. Graduation night, I'm there. We fight,
man."
But yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It was the 1-2, the head kick. But you know what though? This is why I was kind of like almost rooting for Fialio, because like we've covered so much of his career. I've low-key become a fan of him because he's like that staunch, like, I'm gonna just use my hands. Think about that, Matt, though. He got into the UFC with the strength of his hands in like the modern era, right? Like that's saying something. That's saying something. Like still trying to be a specialist. Like
bro said, what if I just knock your ass out?
Right.
Like,
right.
I got black belt in jiu-jitsu. What if I just knock your ass out? Right. Then what? It's like, okay.
That's a strong argument, sir. But yeah, here's the thing though. We were seeing a more patient Fialio this time around. He had made changes. Matt, what did he do that we have damn near never seen him do in this fight?
Kicks.
He threw like 2 or 3 kicks, right? So the dude had a game plan going, and he was throwing like kicks to the body, kicks to the head. He was connecting. His hands were as sharp as ever, and his eyes like never wavered. There was one thing he kept doing where I was like, oh, he might catch Buckley. It was like anytime Buckley like kind of came in with the blitz going forward toward the cage, and like Fialio had his back to the cage, he would kind of slip the punches, angle off a little bit, maybe slightly bounce off the cage, but try to catch Buckley with he'd like tag him with a left or a right, depending on like which direction they were going in. But he was also having success off that, and there were a few instances where it looked like he stunned Buckley a few times with his right hand. But with that being said, man, Buckley had a pretty solid game plan. Like from the start, he was planting those seeds with the 1-2 head kick, bro. And sure enough, it connected. I think it was Brendan Fitzgerald who kept on saying shin to chin. I was like, man, that is a dope ass thing to say right there, because that's what happened. Chin to chin, bro. And like he was out. And I think the ref hesitated because for a second it looked like Fialio was going to get back up to his feet. But then he was also still rather dazed, and it was just like, no, ref, don't just let him, stop strikes with his face. Like, just stop it. Then Buckley did what Buckley does. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. I got nothing else to add. We
Um,
will probably see Fialio again. Let's be
well,
real.
yeah, we will. So let's make sure this suspension sticks.
Yeah.
Let this motherfucker try to come back.
He will appeal it. He will fight it. He will
Yeah,
just show
basically.
up under another name. It's like, no, man, I'm DeAndre
I'm
Fialio.
DeAndre Fialio. I'm DeAndre Fialio. It's so stupid. It should not be funny, but it is.
Oh man, you cool if I take
Oh,
us into the next one?
yeah, man. Go ahead.
All right, we got Emily Gordina Ducote versus Lupita Lupi Godinez. This was at a catch weight from 120 because this was a super short notice fight for both fighters. They came in both weighing at around like 119, 119 and a half. I'm guessing they couldn't make what was it, straw weight that's 115? Or was it atom weight?
115.
115. Yeah, I'm guessing they couldn't make 115. That being said, man, this fight was super entertaining. And here's something you got to know about Lupi Godinez, right? She's fighting for Mexico by way of Vancouver, Canada. But
Very
guess
interesting.
well, they talked about her life story, right? Like some stuff happened when she was a kid. They had to make that move over to Canada. But guess who she's been training with? Because she's known mostly as a wrestler. Guess who she's been training with, Matt?
Well, she's in Mexico, so
Guess. I know
Team
you.
Los
Los
Lobos.
Lobos, bro. And here's the thing about Los Lobos. You know it's
Hands.
them because those hands are always geometrically perfect. I don't
The
know what it
hands
is,
cannot be
right?
mistaken.
They can't be mistaken. We've seen it with Irene Aldana. We've seen it with Alexa Grasso, current champ, right? We've seen it with Diego Lopez. Was that last week or the week before? I forget. When
Week
Lopez fought
before.
Evloyev and like damn near
Mm-hmm.
like put him into a pretzel, right? But those Los Lobos MMA, those signature hands, bro. Like it's kind of there's something about that that's really cool to me. That you can see a signature style emerging from like one school. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't matter who it is. You might not even know Lupi Godinez's background, but you're like, I know Los Lobos when I see it. Anyway, so we got these two fighters, right? They're meeting up, and let me tell you something. Round one, Godinez establishes the tone pretty early. Hands, baby, right? All hands, that Los Lobos precision coupled with calf kicks. She hit a calf kick on Ducote early on while Ducote was getting ready to shift weight for a punch. Damn near sent her careening toward the canvas, right? It was just insane. Like that first round was just the Lupi Godinez show featuring Emily Ducote, right? Round two, much better round for Ducote. She was starting to scrap back a little bit, listen to her corner. They were like telling us like, hey, you can't be last, you got to be first. Let those hands go, let those feet go. And it started looking a little bit even. I would have given round two to Emily Ducote, and it was like about 19-19 at this point, right? Then round three, as much as Ducote was competitive in the second round, it was still really the Godina show because, again, I'm saying it for like the umpteenth time now, that Los Lobos MMA boxing is something different. Because even though Ducote was like kind of scrapping with her, Godinez was getting the edge. Like those Los Lobos hands are just way more sharp, way more precise. It ended up being a unanimous decision win for Lupi Godinez. Clearly, especially if you look at damage dealt, they didn't even look like they were in the same fight. I scored it 29-28, and it looks like a lot of the judges scored it that way as well. But yeah, 29-28 unanimous decision win for Lupi Godinez. And again, on short notice. What'd you think, Matt?
Man, look, I thought that this was to me, this was probably the most competitive fight that I saw of the night.
It was super fucking entertaining.
It was the push-pull of the first two rounds. And ultimately Lupita's hands shining through and
Yeah.
getting her through that last round. My brother and I have a saying that we've had all throughout us being training and all that, and it always comes back to the hands. When you get tired, when you get exhausted, when you done been wrestling and kicking and you can't shoot a double, you can't throw that roundhouse. You could throw that 1-2. You gonna have to. You know what I'm saying? Like,
to me, that's really what it came down to. It came back to the hands, man. You know, he was, I mean, not he, I'm sorry. Lupita just did what needed to be done. She pressed the gas, man, at the end, and just the persistence, the cleanness of that jab. Oh my God. Like, obviously, I know the jab is the foundation of anything, and it's been great to see like
People put
the
respect on
jab.
it.
Yeah, people like really working more and more on the jab, especially in MMA, because it hasn't really been used as much. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I thought it was a beautiful performance overall. Would you mind actually doing the next one too?
We have Edmund Shabazian, the Golden Boy,
Mm-hmm.
versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. If he doesn't change his name to Anthony Namor Hernandez, he is missing out on some glorious marketing and sponsorship opportunities.
Fucking Anthony, damn dog, is you okay? Damn, what did I
We
do?
we will we will definitely touch on that very soon. But like Edmund Shabazian, right? Like this is a dude who is down to scrap. Like his karate style, very effective. The man can get some KO, TKO finishes when he needs to, right? Um, so we had Edmund Shabazian on one time, then we have Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, who we've covered on the podcast before. Like we covered his fight against Marc Andre Barrio back in September of last year. We may have even covered his fight against Josh Fremd. Now that I think about it, back in April of 2022, but he caught that submission against Barrio back in September last year. Now, this is what I'm gonna say. That first round, the Shabazian show, the golden boy, if you will, right? The golden hour, if you will, right? Because it goes by golden boy. Because he was throwing those hands, he wobbled Anthony Hernandez a little bit, and we were just like, oh shit, like this may be like a one and done, one hitter quitter. His rib cage looks asymmetrical. This man has seen some karate fights back in his day. He's the truth. Then round 2 and round 3 happened, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot Anthony Hernandez, when he gets pissed off, he tries to kill people. And I just had to ask myself, what did Edmund Shabazian do to make this dude that mad? Because there was a point, there was a point in round 2 where it's like Anthony Hernandez tried to choke this man in every way possible. And I'm just saying, like, oh, he got a guillotine and he tried to crank him. I mean, he did guillotine, he did darce, he did guillotine again, he did like all these submission variations. Like, you know what? Oh, you know what it is, Matt? I know exactly when Anthony Hernandez was like, all right, I got to put this dude out. It was in round 1 when apparently Shabazian had the audacity to try to get him in an armbar. He was like, "You're gonna try to jujitsu me?" Like,
Pissed.
and then round 2 and round 3 happened, because eventually, what went down in round 3? He took his ass right back down and TKO'd him. Like, I'd imagine, I've taken jujitsu for a while now, and I know what chokes feel like. That shit gasses you out. Lack of oxygen to the brain doesn't allow for very clear thinking, if you will. So yeah, there was not much left, and clearly Anthony Hernandez Fluffy just fucking capitalized on it and got that TKO finish. Which honestly too, it's like that's an impressive win for him to have. It was like a really good showing for him. Don't sleep on Fluffy. That's all I'll say there. What'd you think, Matt?
Goddamn.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, like you said, we've covered him before. I want to say we've covered some of these Edmund Shabazian fights before too. Definitely not as many fights.
Right.
But I feel like we've covered both guys a decent amount. Man, Edmund Shabazian he's had a really rough go of it, hasn't
Yeah.
he? Like
Yeah. Then you look
this
at who's
last little run has not been
yeah.
great for him. He pretty much once he ran into Derek Brunson, it just, taking 3 straight, bouncing back to 1 and then taking another one, and it's another stoppage loss. Not ideal. I don't know, man. I think maybe he might need to. I wouldn't even necessarily say switch teams or anything like that. I just think maybe he had the
Weight
wrong game
class.
plan.
Yeah.
Maybe weight class that possibly could be an option. Man, because it was like 2 different fights happened.
Yeah. There's a stark contrast between round 1 and round 2. Like
Yeah,
stark.
everything after round 1 is a whole different fight.
Yeah.
And that, more or less is really the only thing I could say, like following up on that. Not to be like, too short about it. I think you just kind of covered it pretty pretty well. So
Well, with that, do you want to take us
man,
into the main event?
I don't really, but I will.
It hurts.
Uh
It hurts.
we got the main event was Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill. Mackenzie Dern being excuse me, one second. I'll edit that out. We got Mackenzie Dern. We got Mackenzie Dern pretty much coming off of a recent loss to Yan Xiaonan, sorry. Which was back in October of last year, and we see now where Yan Xiaonan is.
Yeah.
And she took a little bit of time off and she was looking to come back, and she came back against Angela Hill. Angela Hill has been essentially a contender for the entirety of her UFC career. And a fun fact about pretty much her UFC career is that virtually all of her MMA fights are literally all of her MMA experience. She literally had the one fight on Ultimate Fighter,
and then sign her up.
Yeah, and then she fought like in one other promotion, got in the UFC, they bounced her back to Invicta, wins the title in Invicta, and then comes back to the UFC and just permanently, just maintains herself to be a fixture. Now, very interestingly enough, Angela Hill was coming off 2 back-to-back wins, ironically,
2 women who fought
off
today,
of Emily Ducote and Lupita Godinez. She defeated both of these women prior to this fight tonight. So things were looking good. It looked like she was kind of on turning things around. And then look, I don't know what they fed Mackenzie Dern, but Mackenzie Dern decided that she was going to spell Mac in all capital last night because she was so ferocious. I've never seen her like this. Like,
you think the Yan loss was kind of like,
man, maybe that turned her up and just told her she had to get more aggressive. I don't know, because like the heat, but that she was just throwing off of those punches. You know what I'm saying? The knees, the aggressive jiu-jitsu attack, which is not anything new, but like the way that she was going about it, the jiu-jitsu, the judo tosses, the grounded pound, she just was like, man, she was on her ass like Angela Hill owed her money. And fair play, as they say, to Angela Hill, man, because Angela Hill didn't go nowhere. She did not try to run from the smoke. She wasn't trying to stall. Angela Hill fought every minute of that fight. But every minute of that fight, Angela Hill was ice skating uphill against 60 mile an hour wind.
Damn.
Like, yo, it just seemed like she just didn't have an answer, man. In any way. She could not do anything. It was so crazy to witness. Oh man, yeah. Obviously, if you couldn't tell, Mackenzie Dern won. Mackenzie Dern ended up winning a unanimous decision all 5 rounds. However, both women walked away with a little bit extra. They won fight of the night just for that fight. If for nothing else, man, if for nothing else, just the pure heart of Angela Hill, and just the grit and to be able to push through, man. She really did do a tremendous job. So, hats off to her. And that's that was the fight. That was the fights, man.
Yeah.
That was the fights. What we do have coming up next week is, well, actually not next week, in 2 weeks. We have Kai France versus Amir Albazi.
Which I think we've covered some of his fights.
I think we may have.
We've definitely covered Kai Francis versus Volkanovski. Did we cover Albazi versus Costa? Oh, we might have covered Albazi versus Jumagalov. I think, or maybe
Right,
not. Maybe
right. That
not.
sounds familiar.
It sounds like one of our first, one of our earliest. Maybe it was like one of our archive episodes.
Could be, but I mean, who knows? We will see.
We've been at this for a little bit now.
Yeah, we have. On the boxing front, we do not have anything really substantial coming next week, with the exception of we have Lawrence Okoli defending his WBO cruiserweight title against Chris Billman Smith in the 12-round contest. So other than that, it's going to be kind of quiet on the combat sports front until about June 3rd. Until then, it's been cool to have you guys rocking with us. This has been another episode of the Now Mind You podcast. This has been another episode of the combat sports version of the Now Mind You podcast, also now on YouTube. Rock with us. You can follow me at Matt Hambrick wherever you like to get your social media. That's MATTHAMBRICTJ.
You can find me on Instagram at Tuss4Skate. That's TUSS4__SKATE. And y'all can find Bryce on Instagram at Ashe_Onsa. That's AXE_ONCA. Baby.
That's right. And you can follow us at Now Mind You Podcast wherever you'd like to get your social media and wherever you'd like to get your podcast. And you know what? Wherever you like to get your videos, which we know is YouTube, because you're probably on YouTube now. And if you're not on YouTube right now, go on YouTube right now and follow the Now Mind You podcast.
After the episode is over.
After this episode is over. Don't cut this episode off. Listen to this to the end and then listen to it again on YouTube. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
All right, y'all. Peace.